Scared minds don't rebel. The psychology of submission. People don't give up their freedom because they love obedience. They give it up because they're afraid. This is the hidden truth behind most systems of control. They don't need to kill dissent. They just need to convince people that rebellion is dangerous, that change will make things worse, that it's safer to stay quiet, to stay small. Fear is the cage, and submission is the key people turn on themselves. But how does this happen? When fear becomes chronic, it rewires the brain. The body enters survival mode. You begin making decisions not based on truth or vision, but based on avoiding pain. Over time, this shrinks your sense of power. You stop believing things can change. You start adapting to injustice instead of resisting it. This is psychological submission. It happens in abusive homes, in toxic workplaces, in oppressive governments. The pattern is the same. Raise the fear high enough and people start policing themselves. Why? Because hope is a risk, and fear hates risk. Authoritarian regimes know this deeply. They don't need to watch every citizen. They just need citizens to feel watched. They don't need to arrest everyone, just enough to send a message. When fear is high, rebellion becomes unthinkable. This is called learned helplessness. Studies show that when people are exposed to constant threat, especially threats they can't control, they stop trying to escape even when the door is open. They freeze, they adapt, they obey. This is why fear is so dangerous. Not because it hurts you in the moment, but because it reshapes what you believe is possible. Even in democratic societies, this psychology creeps in. People fear losing jobs, social status, or relationships. They fear speaking up. They fear being wrong, so they stay quiet, even when they know something's wrong. This is why tyrants don't need to be brilliant. They just need to be terrifying. Fear will do the rest. But the good news is, submission isn't permanent. It's a trance. And like all trances, it can be broken with truth, with courage, and with connection. Truth is the first step. You must name the fear. Not just I'm scared, but I'm scared of punishment, isolation, shame. Bring it into the light. Courage is the second, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Even small acts of defiance rewire the brain. They teach you, I can survive truth, and connection is the third. Fear isolates, but rebellion, real rebellion, requires unity. Even two people standing together can break the silence that holds oppression in place. Because scared minds don't rebel, but awakened ones do. And once the spell breaks, even the most powerful systems begin to fall. The survival brain versus the thinking brain. Who's really in charge? You think you're making choices, but are you? Or is your ancient brain pulling the strings behind the scenes? Deep inside your skull, there's a silent battle happening every single day. On one side, we have the reptilian brain, our ancient survival system, honed through millions of years to protect us from danger. On the other side, we have the neocortex, the modern thinking brain, responsible for logic, reflection, creativity, and choice. And yet, despite our intelligence and technological advancements, it's often the older, more primitive brain that wins. The survival brain isn't evil. It's not a villain. It's just fast. And in evolutionary terms, speed meant survival. When danger appeared on the savannah, hesitation could be fatal. So nature installed an emergency system in the human brain that could override thought and trigger instant reaction. That's your fight, flight, freeze system. No reasoning, no reflection, just move. But today, we live in a world not of wild animals and predators, but of constant stimulation, information overload, and psychological pressure. The survival brain hasn't caught up. It still sees threats everywhere, only now they're not tigers, but angry emails, breaking news, social rejection, or money stress. And it reacts the same way. Tighten the muscles, release adrenaline, shut down higher thought. The neocortex, the logical brain, is slower, but it's wiser. It lets you ask, is this really a threat? Is this fear mine? Or has it been planted? Is this situation demanding panic or presence? The tragedy is, most people never engage this higher brain. They live on autopilot, pulled along by reactions they don't understand. They mistake emotion for truth. They mistake urgency for importance. And they mistake survival responses for sound decisions. So who's really in charge? If you don't consciously engage the thinking brain, the survival brain will run the show. And here's the catch. It's designed not for happiness or fulfillment, but for safety. And safety is not the same as freedom. You may survive, but you won't thrive. You'll make safe choices, not bold ones. You'll avoid conflict instead of speaking truth. You'll seek comfort, not transformation. What does this look like in daily life? You avoid starting a business because your brain screams, "What if you fail?" You stay in toxic relationships because your brain whispers, "Being alone is unsafe." You refuse to question authority or media because your brain says, "Standing out could be dangerous." In all these moments, your thinking brain has been hijacked by the older circuitry. You're not choosing, you're reacting. But here's the good news. Awareness changes everything. The moment you notice the reaction, you create space. That space is the gateway to choice. You can breathe, pause, and say, "This is fear. It's old, it's protective, but it's not the whole truth." This is where practices like mindfulness, meditation, and conscious breathing become more than trendy habits. They become tools of sovereignty. Every time you slow down and observe instead of react, you strengthen the thinking brain. You reclaim leadership of your mind. It's not about eliminating the survival brain. You need it. It's your emergency brake. But it shouldn't be driving your life. The real question is this: do you want to live by instinct or by intention? When your thinking brain is in charge, you can question the narratives you're fed. You can see through manipulation. You can respond with wisdom instead of fear. That's where freedom begins. Not in changing the world, but in mastering your inner world. The survival brain will always be there, waiting in the shadows. But it doesn't have to run the show. Because the moment you choose presence over panic, clarity over chaos, and consciousness over reaction, you're no longer a prisoner of your past. You're a creator of your future. How to break free from fear-based programming. You were not born afraid. Fear was downloaded into you, line by line, like code written into your nervous system. From childhood, we are conditioned to fear. Fear of punishment, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being different. It doesn't happen through one big event. It happens subtly, repeatedly, until fear becomes a background hum in your mind, so constant you stop noticing it's there. But here's the truth most people never realize. Fear is a program, and like all programs, it can be rewritten. Fear-based programming is the invisible system that controls how we see ourselves, others, and the world. It's in the media we consume, the language we use, the rules we're taught. It whispers, don't trust your instincts, follow the crowd, stay small, stay safe. Why? Because people who live in fear are easier to control. When you're afraid, you don't question, you obey, you seek safety and conformity, you look to external authority for guidance. So how do we break free? Step 1. Recognize the programming. You can't change what you don't see. Start listening to the inner dialogue that guides your choices. When you hesitate, ask, is this wisdom or fear? When you hold back, ask, who taught me this was dangerous? Trace your fear back to its source. You might discover that many of your fears are not truly yours. They're inherited from parents, teachers, culture, religion, history. They were passed down like family heirlooms, never questioned. Step 2. Disengage from fear-based systems. Fear thrives on repetition. The more you feed it, the more real it becomes. Turn off content that triggers anxiety and division. Be ruthless in protecting your inner space. Not because you want to live in denial, but because you want to choose your inputs consciously. Step 3. Rewire your nervous system. Fear is not just mental, it's physical. Your body stores the memory of fear. That's why breathwork, somatic healing, and meditation are so powerful. They teach your body what safety feels like. And when the body feels safe, the mind opens up to possibility. Step 4. Replace fear with vision. The mind needs a new direction. It's not enough to reject fear. You must embrace something higher. What do you value more than safety? Truth, freedom, love, purpose. Let that be your guide. When your actions are fueled by vision, fear becomes background noise, not the driver. Step 5. Practice courageous action. Freedom is a muscle. You build it through daily choices. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Say no to what drains you. Say yes to what scares you but calls your soul forward. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action despite it. And finally, step 6. Surround yourself with conscious energy. Fear loves company. So does freedom. Be with people who challenge you to grow, not shrink. Who remind you who you are, not who you're supposed to be. Your environment either reinforces the old program or helps you install a new one. Breaking free from fear-based programming isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming conscious. It's realizing you have a choice. Every time you step out of fear, you're rewriting the code. You are not a victim of the system. You are the programmer. And the moment you realize that, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the control structures that depend on your fear to survive. Because a person no longer ruled by fear is a person no one can manipulate. And that is true freedom, escaping the cage, rise above the reptilian response. They built the perfect cage, and the door was never locked. You were just too scared to try it. The reptilian brain doesn't want freedom. It wants familiarity. It wants repetition. It wants to keep you alive, yes, but at any cost. Even if it means keeping you small, silent, and stuck. And here's the twist. It's doing this without your permission. Most people live their whole lives trapped inside the limits set by their oldest instincts. This is the cage, and fear is the lock. The reptilian brain is built for crisis. It doesn't care about joy, fulfillment, or spiritual awakening. Its job is survival, full stop. But what happens when you're not in a life or death situation, yet still feel tense, reactive, closed off, or numb? That's the reptilian response hijacking your life. You weren't born for just survival. You were born to evolve. But evolution can't happen inside a cage. So how do we rise above this ancient trap? First, we must name it. The reptilian response shows up as hypervigilance, chronic anxiety, overreaction, emotional shutdown, or blind conformity. It pushes you into extremes, either aggression or paralysis. It thrives in high stress, high fear environments, and it keeps looping unless you consciously interrupt it. The key to escaping isn't willpower, it's awareness. Start with your breath. Shallow, rapid breathing signals danger. Slow, deep breathing tells your nervous system, it's safe now. This simple act lowers cortisol, activates the parasympathetic system, and reboots the mind. In this calm state, your higher brain reactivates. Next, shift from reaction to observation. When you feel triggered, pause. Don't speak, don't act, just notice. What sensation is this? Where do I feel it? What is it trying to protect? Bringing curiosity to your inner experience interrupts the reptilian cycle. Now you're not just reacting, you're relating to your experience. The cage also exists in your language. Notice how you speak. I can't. I should. I'm afraid. These are fear scripts. Rewrite them. Replace I can't with I choose. Replace I should with I value. Replace I'm afraid with I'm noticing fear, but choosing courage. Remember, the reptilian brain reacts to perceived threats, so change what you perceive. Focus on opportunity, growth, creativity. Fear shrinks vision. Presence expands it. When you shift your focus, your brain chemistry shifts too. Movement is another key. The body is not meant to sit frozen in fear. Shake, stretch, dance, run. Move the fear out of the body. Let it flow. A moving body tells the brain, we are not trapped, and that changes everything. You can also visualize freedom. Close your eyes, see the cage, see the bars, then see yourself stepping out. See yourself breathing deeply, walking into the unknown, not as a victim, but as a conscious being choosing life. The brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined experience. Use that to your advantage. Community matters too. Fear isolates, but shared presence heals. When you gather with others who are escaping the cage, you feel less alone. Your nervous system relaxes. You realize it's not just me, and that shared awareness becomes collective power. Escaping the reptilian cage isn't about fighting fear. It's about understanding it, loving it, thanking it for trying to protect you, and then moving beyond it. With compassion and courage, you are not your instincts. You are the awareness behind them. You are not the prisoner. You are the key. And the moment you realize that, the cage falls away.